Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third podcast. We are here and talking about stop loss in this episode. It kind of relates to the previous episode. So, if you haven't obviously watched that, listened to that, sorry. But the last episode was touching about risk, and obviously, we spoke about all the different types of emotions behind that. And I thought that this episode ties in very perfectly well with the stop loss. Um, that's what we're going to talk about into today's episode. Um, Make sure you listen all the way to the end because we will be giving away some good tips for future um, trading for yourself. So hopefully you get the best benefit from our talk. Let's just go and start off then. The first point that we've got here is obviously we have like what's the purpose of a stop loss, right? So the main one is obviously it protects your account. Um, when I first started trading, I didn't really believe that I needed a stop loss. I know everyone talks about it, but I think when people take on their own challenges and they want to do it their own way because of stubbornness. So that's obviously um, a trait that people may have or might not have. But personally, I knew that I wanted, if I'm going to do something, I will take someone's advice, but I will also look into what I think, and I'm just going to do it. I have that sort of personality. Um, and I can tell you for sure that it doesn't work. So make sure you're always applying a stop loss because the number one reason it protects your account. Now, what this means emotionally is that if you're putting a stop loss that's ridiculous, so like let's say negative 100 pips, like realistically, if you was to even get that far into a loss, are you willing to take that risk? Are you really willing to get into that emotion when it does happen and it hits your stop loss? Or are you gonna think to yourself, "Oh, I should have taken out earlier"? And that's a very hard thing to get over at the very beginning because you could have put your trade along and could have put a risk where you could almost blow half of your account, and because you know you had this strategy of, I'm just presuming here, but like you might have this idea that, yeah, if I put a high enough stop loss, I'll just take out when I'm just in profit. But what happens when you hit your stop loss, and for the past several days you did that method and you got into profit several times, but that one loss took all of those profits away and you're almost negative. You've gone back over all that previous work, hard work you've endured, um, and you're back to square one again, even worse than square one. Sorry, you're probably going even negative. Um, so obviously, my personal I well idea for you is obviously to use your stop loss in a much more serious way. And one thing you have to incorporate that is with obviously with your strategy, but you want to have like an idea in mind. So I will keep going back over this about objectives, really writing out what you want in your objectives as a personal trader. Like, do you want to be a swing trader? Do you want to be a long term? Do you want a short term? Obviously, the variety is very wide here. This is why forex is a um, very attractive occupation to take upon. So, my personal thought processes through my stop losses was, okay. I want to risk X, Y, Z amount. So let's just say it was 20 pips. I want to roughly uh, risk 20 odd pips, and with the risk according, as we previously mentioned in the previous episode, how we talked about how to calculate risk. Make sure you should check that out. Um, but you calculate your risk and you adjust your pip count, sorry, your lot size accordingly to your pip, right? Your stop loss. So um, I know for a fact that if I have a trading opportunity available and it's within a region that I'm comfortable, so say anywhere between 10 pips as the minimum that I want to partake in, and to the absolute max, I want it to be 30 to 40. That's the absolute max that um, you could say that you would want to keep your stop loss at, right? And you have to know that is that comfortable for you? Would you rather adjust it? Could you go a bit more? Could you handle a bit more? Um, and this is really the key here. It's not, no one's really right in saying, okay, you need a 10 pip stop loss, you need a 30 pip stop loss straight. Um, the real key behind your own strategy is actually yourself. And it took me a long time to kind of figure out that. But the really best route to go around this is really defining your own objectives here, picking out what you want to acquire in this field. So, what can you handle really? And it's that emotional psychology that goes into your head that actually does play a big part of trading. Like, yes, all it actually is, we're just clicking a button, and either we're buying a currency or we're selling a currency, shorts or buying, and ultimately we're just waiting for the profit. But it isn't just that simple. Any person can make money from trading, but the real aspect of a good trader is, are they able to demonstrate the qualities of discipline, um, consistency, and like that mental mindset that you got to have, right? So it's all these other factors that no one really does talk about. So just to quickly summarize that, then, so basically the stop loss is to protect your account, and you need to tie your stop loss with your emotions. So if and also include your objectives with it. So such as, or I can think about, I could allow a 30 pip stop loss in my strategy, or it may be just in a range bound, or it might be a static figure. So obviously this is for you to decide. Um, so yeah, so then the next sort of points, the reason why I want to stress upon stop losses is that it's kind of going back to that original point where I said, where people think that, oh, if I use my stop loss really, if I move my stop loss really big, so like say 100 pips, and it doesn't get to that point, I it makes sense for me to wait for the profit, wait for the market to get into profit, so then I can just quickly take out. Um, but this is kind of like dragging the trade on, and it really drags the whole momentum, the whole mindset of of your trade. For example, some in some pairs, it takes a long time for uh, the market to move in 100 pip direction, and that could take a few days, a few hours, etc. But within that meantime, you could have had a 20 pip stop loss, quickly change your position to to the opposite direction, and you could have profited on that. So say for example, we were selling a currency pair, and it went straight into our stop loss, and you have criteria that if the stop loss is hit, we would switch and look for a buying opportunity, so reverse. And for whatever reason and whatever your entry criteria is, you decide to get into it, and then you covered your loss from that negative 20 to now potentially positive 60 or positive 30 net profit. So it's all about, opportunities will always come, and this is a big discipline um, factor that we you have to incorporate, and I believe that really switched my personal trading style. Really sticking to your plan and understanding your plan and really being comfortable with it. Um, so the main point really here, what I'm trying to say is that opportunities always present themselves in the market. So never always think that you have to be in in 101 trades. You don't have to always participate in the market. I've had weeks where I've just only put in 3 trades, but I did profit in that week. And versus trader B, for example, they may be a daily trader, but in profit wise, they may have only just profited. Whereas I've only put 2 trades in, that person B may have only put in, well, may have put in like 30 trades, but only netted the same. We both netted the same in the whole year. Sorry, in that week. So the the way we have to kind of look into this is that I know I keep going on about it, but the opportunities do come all the time, and they always present themselves. So I wouldn't worry too much if you do lose out short term. Um, yeah, so then the other point that I've got here is it nicely brings into recovering an account. So let's say, for example, you did take your 100 pip stop loss, right? And now you've got to deal with the fact that you've got that 100 pip stop loss, right? Um, Thinking about that, you need to adjust yourself. If you feel that if you feel very uncomfortable with that you've got a 100 pip stop loss. I know some people who can afford to do that and are emotionally capable. But if some of you are not capable, then you know you need to adjust yourself. And recovering the account basically means adjusting your plan, adjusting your emotions, and applying your objectives with your emotions together. So, kind of creating some pillars, so almost resetting the foundations and reassessing your strategy. Um, and then you can incorporate the risk, um, like we discussed in previous episode. But you know, identifying all these sort of factors can find some flaws for you to think about in a much further way, and hopefully that would kind of uh, help you with the trading aspect and kind of looking at your trading style in a different angle. So yeah, finally moving on to the final point, and then before we wrap it up, um, this point here is quite really good here. So if you did stay and listen to the end of this podcast, this is what I believe is the probably the most valuable point, um, and that is actually focusing on the pips instead of the money. And when that happens, you're gonna have to think about the the future, about what are you going for here. Like, yes, we are going for the money, but the pips are the essential criteria for you to essentially get money, if that makes sense. So, for example, if you're starting off testing your strategy and you're going for the money, are you really going to risk a lot on your first couple of trades, knowing the fact that you're not confident in your trade and sorry, in your trading plan, and you're going to take a few adjustments. So therefore, you're going to have potentially a one penny lot size. So therefore, you're going to think, oh, okay, um, we've reached our take profit level, but it's not enough, and I want more money. So you're gonna, it's that battle of the fear and greed, um, and that emotion, it needs to be controlled, and that's because we're not focusing here. We're focusing on the wrong sort of thing here. We should be focusing on the pip count rather than the money. Um, that's what I believe works mentally with myself. I know that if I get the pip count in, and just go for the pips, forget about the money, I can slowly start to become more confident in my strategy and develop the confidence so that I could then start to deal with more risk on the line, eventually increasing my lot sizes to, like one lot size, 10 lot size, five lot size, just depends how much we grow with the account. And ultimately, it stems off how you're comfortable with your strategy. And one of the pillars to get over this is what is your focus and what is your objective here? Is it actually money here, or is it actually the pips? So do believe it is the pips that make or break a trading strategy, um, and let the money follow afterwards. So yeah, so that is our podcast on the stop loss on this episode. Hopefully you found it very beneficial. Um, these were some of the points that I wanted to bring out this week. Hopefully, they did help you. I know these are the points that helped me kind of take my trading strategy to the next level. Um, yeah, so that will be all from us. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.